Tánaiste, it's increasingly clear that you still haven't understood what the people are saying on the issue of water charges. Hard-pressed families are not looking for a temporary reduction in their bill. Families at risk of poverty, including working families, are not looking for a social welfare payment. 100,000 people marched through Dublin in October and made that crystal clear. 150,000 people in November marching across the state made that crystal clear. They're simply not in a position to pay this unjust charge. They're opposed to this charge and they're telling you to scrap it. But instead of listening to the people, your government are cooking up some half-baked package of measures which you hope will get you through the next general election. And that's not good enough, Tánaiste. So you claim that you wish to help people. So perhaps you can help here today. Can you, Tánaiste, give a commitment that you will not allow unpaid water bills to be deducted at source from people's wages, pensions or social welfare? And can you further confirm that you will not allow attachment orders to be used by IrishWater to enforce payment?
Thank you. Tánaiste.
Well, the priority of the government, Deputy, is in fact to offer people, as I've said to you before in previous discussions, a clear, modest, affordable charge in relation to IrishWater. We have listened very carefully, unlike at times yourselves, to what people have had to say. And we have been working in relation to a package which my colleague, the Minister for the Environment, Alan Kelly, is finalising, which will provide, as I said, clarity in relation to the IrishWater framework, but which has as its objective the provision of clean, safe water to people who live in the country. That's an issue for everybody, Deputy, whether they're on a high income or a low income. And secondly, that will enable the future industrial and commercial development of the country so that we get people back to work. In addition, for the first time since the crisis began, I'm happy to say we have a budget where in January and February people will see modest reductions in the USC and in income tax, alongside increases in child benefit and increases in a number of other social welfare allowances. So we are very cognizant of the fact that people have found it very difficult to make ends meet. And the budget is a very carefully designed package to provide relief both to families and individuals who depend on social protection and social welfare payments, and families who are at work and who in particular have certainly said to me that they would like to see the reform and relief in respect particularly of the USC as it affects lower paid workers, the people you're talking about, and secondly in relation to taxation. But on the IrishWater position, what I want is what I said before, and what we're working on is a programme where we will have a very clear package, which I hope will be with the House by the end of next week, and which will provide certainty as to the charges over a long period of time. I said before, I'll say it again, I think IrishWater were far too ambitious in the timeline of the very, very large undertaking that it is to change water provision in this country from 34 local authorities. Deputy, you may have noticed that in the Galway Roscommon area, as recently as this week, another 1,000 families went, unfortunately, on boil water notices. And if Sinn Féin has decided that the quality and the condition of the water is not really of enormous concern to them, I think that that's an abdication of where you, on the other hand, are suggesting that you would offer an economic recovery for this country. We're providing a tax package, we're providing a social welfare package which will directly address the families that you're rightly concerned about. But those families also need good quality water, safe, healthy water, and everyone in the country, if we're to advance employment and advance industry and advance business and tourism and agriculture in the country, we need good clean water for those purposes as well.
Thank you.
I believe the overall programme of the government addresses precisely the points that you have raised.
Thank you. Deputy McDonald, 1 minute. Thank you.
Well, I believe your answer has precisely been designed not to address the questions, the very precise questions that I have raised with you, leaving aside entirely the fact that you're clearly not listening to what people have told you. Here's the clarity. Here's the clarity piece. The clarity piece is people have told you in unprecedented numbers to abolish this charge. There's the message. There's clarity for you. Let me return to, if I might, to the two specific questions that I've put to you as Tánaiste, but also as Minister for Social Protection. I have asked you specifically to give an assurance to the dail that you will not allow for unpaid bills to be deducted from people's wages, people's pensions or people's social welfare. That's question number one, if you would answer. Question number two was that you would not allow for attachment orders to be used by IrishWater for unpaid bills. And I know, Tánaiste, that the House is sitting on Friday. I understand that there will be a vote on Friday. I wonder to myself, and there is some speculation that there might be emergency legislation presented on Friday, perhaps to allow for these very things.
Thank you.
So put people's minds at rest and make it clear today that you will not allow for deductions of unpaid bills from wages, from pensions, from social welfare, and address also, please, if you would, that issue of attachment orders, and make it clear that you will not allow for the use of such orders by IrishWater in respect of unpaid bills.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, just let me say I've been listening very, very carefully to what people have said to me.
Sorry.
And, Deputy, what people have said to me up and down the country, and I've had the opportunity to be in quite a number of different parts of the country in recent weeks, and listening to people, which I do. I'm not sure if you always do, but I certainly listen to people. Yesterday, listening to the debate, it seemed like there was a very large tin ear on the part of many of the people from your party in relation to very serious concerns. But listening to people as I go around the country, what people say to me, and I can only offer you my experience. And can I offer you? Asked me about listening.
Time limit.
Can I tell you about listening? Can I answer the deputy's? Question? What people say to me is they want clean, reliable water. In Roscommon, they tell me they don't want to have to boil their water, as they've been doing for 12 years.
Thank you.
Dublin, restaurants and hotels tell me to continue the tourism and the hospitality trade in Dublin. Dublin needs a reliable supply of water. It doesn't have it. Now, in relation to next week,
would you please
in relation to your questions in respect of next week, I have told you already that Minister Alan Kelly is finalising the package of proposals in relation to IrishWater, and when he unveils the package, there's been no agreement finalised in relation to the package, except, as I think I told you some weeks ago, I am very, very confident that the package will be one which will address the issue of single-person households and households where there are two or more people, and that the charges will be modest and extremely affordable, particularly in the context of a budget where the middle-income families, you're talking about the low-income families, the budget has been built. I have told
Sorry,
you.
Tánaiste, we're over time. Thank you.
I've told you that Minister Kelly will unveil the budget, will unveil the package next
Deputy
week.
Maureen O'Sullivan, thank you. Thank you, Tánaiste. Deputy Maureen O'Sullivan. Deputy Maureen O'Sullivan. Sorry, would you resume your seat? Resume your seat. But then leave the House. Leave the House.
I will not leave the House.
Well, then
My questions
I'll be
were
forced
put
to
very clearly.
put the motion that you will leave the House.
Very clearly, you did not answer the core questions. And you adopt this strategy week in, week out.
Now, Deputy, I'm asking you for the final time to leave the House. I'm asking you to leave the House. OK, I'm putting the question. I name Deputy McDonald and I move that she be suspended from the service of the dail. Is that agreed? Na teachtaí atá a thabh na Tánaiste Joan tá. Na teachtaí atá na Joan Burton sníon. Sílim Gwynn Kestridge.
The dail has no meaning if there's no answer to the question.
That's the second time.
Well, that is a conclusion that we hadn't expected. A testy and a very ill-tempered conclusion there to leaders' questions. And I think that amounts to another expulsion for Deputy Mary Lou McDonald. Micheál, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, Mary Lou McDonald did have a similar incident a few weeks back, but I suppose the main issue there is that she's asking a question that Gerry Adams also asked on Tuesday. If water charges aren't paid, will they be deducted from wages, pensions or social welfare payments? Clearly, again, the Tánaiste didn't answer it. And there is a feeling around Leinster House this morning that there could be a vote taken next Friday. So could we see emergency legislation on the way to allow for that? As of now, it's just speculation, but the government side doing nothing to reject it.
Peadar Tabine, was this a choreographed move on the part of Sinn Féin? Was it decided that if the Tánaiste wasn't going to be very direct and answer the question exactly, that this piece of theatre would ensue?
No, I think anybody watching this show, this particular event here, will see how deeply frustrating it is as an elected representative to have a short period of time to which to ask a question of a senior minister, and for the senior minister to completely stonewall that particular question. And remember this, there are hundreds of thousands of people, pensioners, people on social welfare, people on the lowest of incomes, who are struggling to keep the roofs over their houses, struggling to pay their rent, struggling to feed and clothe their children. This particular charge would push them over the edge.
Sure, Deputy Tabine, but my question to you is, what purpose does it serve to have your deputy leader expelled from the Dáil chamber?
To be honest, nobody wants to get expelled, but you have to draw a line under the case where the Minister, Joan Burton, disgracefully wouldn't answer a question with regards whether she and her government would rifle social welfare of people on the lowest incomes in this country for this charge. And the fact that she wouldn't answer it is clear to me that this threat is still on the table of the government as a tool to browbeat people into paying for water charges. The government is having a parallel discussion on water charges. The people have already decided that water charges are not and should not happen, but the government having a parallel conversation about in what way the water charges should be designed. And it strikes me, there was the earlier conversation with regards mortgage distress. The government's drop-kicked the regulator into touch with regards to water charges, but won't touch the regulator with regards to the profiteering of the banks on distressed mortgage holders.
We'll return to the banks in just a moment. Stephen, I suppose it is hard to avoid coming to the conclusion that the Tánaiste did evade answering the question directly about enforcement.
And the Taoiseach equally evaded answering the same question from Gerry Adams a couple of days ago as well. The Taoiseach said, I'll give you all those answers next week and no sooner. It's interesting though, Alan Kelly announced last week, that the Minister for the Environment, that he would not be cutting off anybody's water, he wouldn't be reducing water pressure to a trickle. And that immediately asked the question, well, if you're removing that stick from the system, how are you going to ensure that people pay? So there is a growing expectation and growing talk among government officials of some sort of new compliance measures for Irish Water, and that clearly is what Deputy McDonald is trying to get at today, and the government won't give it to her until next week.
And that will be a long wait. We've heard a week is a long time in politics. It's going to be a long week for the government.
Yeah, it is. And we know in the past that the government did, when there were difficulties with the property charge in its first incarnation, did ultimately have to go to revenue and did allow for the deduction from social welfare payments and the like. If something else is being considered along these lines now, it will make the difficult job of this revised package difficult to sell, you feel, even if there is money going back and even if the charges are capped.
Yeah, because we did hear the Tánaiste on radio this morning, and she is sticking by, it would appear, this €200 figure, and also sticking by this €100 support payment. So the government have moved considerably from their opening position, it would have to be said, Miall.
Yeah, and I think at the Fine Gael Parliamentary Party meeting last night there was a general sense of ease that the great pressure that the TDs were under in previous weeks had somehow relented, and that the package, as they understand it right now, will be sufficient. But I think this is the pressure point. Clearly Sinn Féin have found it and are trying to hammer it home now during leaders' questions.
Would you like to come in on that point, Peadar Tóibín?
Yeah, can I just give you an example? I met a pensioner recently who had her home heating oil stolen, and such is her existence at the edge that for her to save up for new home heating oil, she literally gets up at 1 o'clock in the day to skip her breakfast, and she has her dinner in her daughter's house.
Peadar Tóibín, with respect, we're not talking about home heating oil. We're talking about water.
If you give me a second, I'll make it very clear what I'm trying to say to you. The point is, she is living so close to the edge that this water charge will literally knock her over the edge. Now, these are real people in real circumstances, and they're faced with, literally being pushed over the tipping point by this government, and yet this government won't answer the questions in the Dáil by the elected representatives of the opposition. And for a Labour minister to be standing over this, the charge very simply does not take into consideration people's ability to pay, and any charge that does not take into consideration people's ability to pay will push people over the edge.
Peadar Tóibín, in the budget, directed at people like the pensioner whose case you've just outlined. And the question I put to you is, why are the accusation that your party is stoking up fear among pensioners, among those on social welfare? Wouldn't it be better for you to advise people to wait until you see the detail of the package, which will be announced next week, and then give advice?
The Irish people are well able to think for themselves. We're responding simply to the fear that's out there currently at the moment. The people that came on the streets, the hundreds of thousands of people that came on the streets in Dublin and then in the local areas, did so of their own volition and did so of their own decision. It is our responsibility now to use the chamber, and that's what we're doing, to literally give voice to that fear. And all we're saying is that if you're going to pay for something...
in the absence of detail, is that not a fair point?
Sorry, is that question to me?
It is, Peadar, yes, sorry.
So in the absence
of detail.
If you look at how this government has carried on with this fiasco, they've introduced detail after detail after detail, rode back on those details, and then tried to resolve them. This has been nothing short of a political fiasco that the government has been involved in. They themselves have created the problems that they're reaping at the moment. All we're saying to them is very clearly, if you're going to charge for anything, make sure that you take into consideration ability to pay. Because once you go down the route of ignoring ability to pay, you're guaranteed to push people over the economic edge.
Stephen O'Brien, I suppose the government haven't done themselves any favours in dragging this process out. They throw out the sweeteners in the budget, and then there's the €200 figure, there's water support payments and other subsidies available for people on social welfare. But there's still that 2, 3, 4 week period where they don't know the detail.
Yes, I mean, on the road to giving clarity and certainty, there's been this extraordinary vacuum of just chaos and absolute uncertainty. I think the government strategy at this stage is to give certainty on price, to deliver modest prices, and to get a level of buy-in from 75–80% of the public, perhaps, into registering with IrishWater. And part of that strategy involves compliance measures to move against the 20% who don't buy in. Because if one person is paying, they don't want to see their neighbour not paying with impunity.